Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Today, let us talk about the origin of the universe, especially about the things happened immediately after the Big Bang. Everyone knows that the creation of the universe began with a big blast known as Big Bang that leads to the formation of the universe, which includes stars, galaxies, and other matter. According to the scientific study, the Big Bang took place approximately 13.8 billion years ago, and the first star was formed at around 300 million years after the Big Bang. But there is no detailed information available regarding what happened immediately after the Big Bang. Regarding this, many scientific theories are present, but they all are based on few assumptions. But the Creator Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has conveyed all these details through scriptures beforehand, but we fail to extract the information till now. With the knowledge bestowed on me by the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, let me decipher some of the scriptures and understand the origin of the universe. All the scriptures of the world mentions about the Big Bang, but today let us understand the formation of the universe as mentioned in the book of Genesis, Quran, and few Indian scriptures. The chapter 1 of the book of Genesis summarizes the creation of the universe in 6 days, where the day is a cosmic day. To keep the video short and to make the things understandable to common man, I am not discussing all the details mentioned in this chapter. On day 1, a big flash of light was created, as it is called day and night. On the second day, separation and expansion of red-hot plasma and formation of gases took place, as it is mentioned as sky, land, and sea. On the third day, the fundamental particles are formed and the plasma was still hot, as it is mentioned as evening and morning. On the fourth day, it lit up with light and there were storms, maybe of photons or other particles. On the fifth day, the fundamental particles combine to form lighter subatomic particles in the plasma and gas, which begin to multiply, and still the universe was hot. Then, on the sixth day, God created the elementary particles like electrons, protons, neutrons, positrons, neutrinos, etc., which are referred as animals and humans, as mentioned in the verse number 24 to 26. Similarly, chapter 7, verse number 11 of Quran and chapter 10, mantra 90 and 190 of the Rig Veda also mentions about the formation of the universe. Now, let us come back to the book of Genesis. The subsequent chapters of the Genesis explains the details of events occurred after the Big Bang. The chapter 2 mentions about the creation of man and woman. Then who are they? We have to decipher the information rationally and extract the hidden scientific knowledge from these scriptures. Here, the man and woman are metaphorically mentioned for the subatomic particles. According to chapter 2, verse number 7 of the book of Genesis, God created the man from soil. Then the question is, who the man is? The answer lies in the chapter 1, verse number 27, where it is mentioned that God created humankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them, male and female, he created them. To understand this, first we have to understand who is God. It is very interesting to know that the answer lies in the same verse. From this we can understand that in the beginning the universe was nothing but a pure proton, and here it is metaphorically mentioned as God. Let us call it the God proton. Then its explosion created many number of freely moving protons, electrons, neutrinos, antiprotons and other fundamental particles, but there were no neutrons. It is mentioned in the Quran in Surah number 2, verse number 30 to 39 and Surah number 7, verse number 11 to 13 that Allah created the man, then asked the angels to prostrate in front of him. On his command, except Iblis, everyone prostrated in front of man. This suggests two things. Firstly, here protons are mentioned as man, and secondly, angels represent the electrons. The act of prostration indicates the submission. This suggests that electrons were tied to the protoprotons, forming the protons. At this time, the forces like gravity, nuclear, and electromagnetic forces are generated in the eastern part of the newly expanding universe, which is called as Eden. The book of Genesis, verse number 21 to 23 of chapter 2 states that the man was pushed to a deep sleep, and from his body part a companion was created, to whom man called the woman. This suggests that the protons are pushed to a deep sleep, and from them neutrons are produced as a companion to it. The chapter 3 explains about the formation of nucleus, as it mentions about the covering with clothes. Further, the serpent represents the positrons and the phenomena of nuclear bonding or nuclear fusion. If we carefully observe the structure of a serpent, we can notice that its foremost part begins with a forked tongue, then a long body which ends with a pointed tail. This is comparable to a nuclear fusion that starts with two particles which fuses to one. The prohibited tree represents the lightning, and its fruits represent the energy particles like photons. The act of eating of fruit from prohibited tree indicates the beginning of nuclear fusion with the interaction of photons with a newly formed nuclei. Verse number 5 states that when you eat that fruit, your eyes will open, indicates that energy will be released on the interaction with photon. As we all know, when we open our eyes, we can see light. Therefore, it is symbolically mentioned like that. In the verse number 17, God is addressing the man as Adam. This indicates that now the proton is converted to atom as they wore clothes. Here, Adam represents the proteum initiating the elemental formation. Further, it is mentioned in the verse number 20 that Adam named his wife Eve, suggests that deuterium has formed at this time, which is the life giver for the subsequent elements. Later, verse number 23 states that they were expelled from the Eden, suggests that now the proteum and deuterium started spreading to the other parts of the newly expanding universe. Similar to the book of Genesis, one of the Indian scriptures called the Manusmriti also describes the creation of the universe in the chapter 1. The god proton, which is mentioned earlier, is described as Swayambhu, meaning self-existence in the verse number 6. The verse number 8 mentions about the plasma as water. In verse number 11, the proton is mentioned as Purusha, and the verse number 12 talks about the formation of the neutron. The protoprotons, which are mentioned earlier, are mentioned as Brahman in the verse number 11. The verse number 32 mentions about the formation of the proton and neutron, thereby formation of the elements from neutrons. The chapter number 4 of the book of Genesis describes the story of Cain and Abel, which is about the birth of daughter elements from the parent element deuterium. It is mentioned in the verse number 1 that the man had marital relations with his wife Eve, and she gave birth to Cain. This indicates that there was an interaction of protons with deuterium, and that leads to the formation of a daughter element. The verse number 2 states that then she gave birth to Abel, where Cain cultivated the land and Abel took care of the flocks. It is mentioned in the verse number 3 to 5 that Cain and Abel brought offering to the God, and God accepted the offering of Abel. Because of this, Cain killed Abel, and which God banished him from the ground and made him homeless wanderer on the earth. Based on these characteristics, we can confirm that Cain represents helium-3 and Abel represents tritium. As we all know, on decaying, tritium emits electrons which can be absorbed by the pure protons. Therefore, it is said that God had accepted the offering of Abel. Further, verse number 17 to 24 explains about the family of Cain, which suggests the formation of new elements. It is also mentioned in the verse number 17 that Cain was building a city and named it Enoch after his son Enoch, where Enoch represents the element helium-4. This suggests that this is the time when stars started to form, and Enoch is the first fully formed star. The verse number 17 to 24 mentions the descendants of Cain, which explains the formation of elements through CNO cycle, where Irad, Mehuel, Methushel, and Lamech represents the beryllium, carbon, nitrogen, and oxygen respectively. In the verse number 25, it is said that Adam had marital relations with his wife again, and she gave birth to a son, Seth, saying, God had given me another child in place of Abel. This implies that at this time a protium is interacting with deuterium that produce lithium through the interaction of tritium, which is mentioned as sheet. The verse number 26 states that a son named Enosh was born to Sheet. At that time, people began to worship the Lord, suggests that the matter has started to revolve around the center of the universe. This is the reason why there is a ritual of circumambulation of Kaaba, which symbolizes that everything in the universe circumambulate around the center of the universe, where Kaaba symbolically represents the center of the universe and the earth. Chapter 5 summarizes the family line of Adam up to Noah with statistics. The information of family line describes the formation of elements and formation of new stars. Let us leave the calculation and details of formation of elements to the scientists, as it cannot be accommodated in this short video. But let me mention about one important event that is mentioned in this chapter. It is mentioned in the verse number 18 to 24 that the Enoch, son of Jared, had walked with God for 300 years and then he disappeared because God took him away. This indicates that this star has revolved around the center of the universe for some time and then fallen into it. It also indicates that some amount of helium generated during the elemental evolution process in the universe was absorbed by the center of the universe. It is stated in the chapter 6 that there was increased immorality and wickedness among the stars, where everyone was involved in capturing the matter from each other, and also suggests that there was no ordering in fusing of the cations and anions. This offended the God, as there was full of chaos and violence in the universe. Therefore, God destroyed the early formed star systems except Noah through flood. Then, who is Noah? According to the verse number 9 and 10, Noah was God-fearing man where there was ordering exists and it followed the laws of God. Therefore, God saved him from destruction and asked him to build an ark. This indicates that this is the beginning of the formation of the galaxies, where the ark represents the galaxy and Noah represents a star. This is the oldest surviving galaxy, and I request the scientists to identify it based on the descriptions provided in this chapter. The verse number 18 to 21 describes about the material to be taken by the galaxy during the universal flood, which includes stars, stellar matter, fundamental particles, visible matter, and dark matter, which are mentioned as animals, birds, plants, and humans. It included everything but in a limited amount. The chapter 7 provides the details of the flood. Here, the water may represent the real water or plasma of gases which produced during the elemental evolution. To understand this, we have to work on the chapter 5 in detail and refer the other scriptures as well. Therefore, I request the science and religious scholars to join hands with me to decipher these details, as it is time consuming. Except Noah and his companions, everything was wiped out during this flood, indicates that this is the mass extinction of the older universe. The chapter number 8, verse number 1 states that the God caused a wind to blow over the earth and the waters receded. This indicates that the water might have swept away in the space apart from receding into the ground, the place from where it came. The verse number 6 and 7 of chapter 8 states that at the end of the flood, through a window, Noah sent out a raven which kept flying back and forth until the waters dried up. The verse number 8 to 12 states that Noah sent out a dove and initially it came back, but later it did not return. This indicates that a chunk of black galaxy was blown out first and then the visible matter galaxy from the compact galaxy, which marks the beginning of the expansion of the galaxy. The verse number 15 to 19 describes about the dismounting from the ark by Noah and his companions, which confirms the expansion of galaxy. It's a new beginning of the galaxy and the universe. Therefore, I request the people to abstain from immorality, violence, and sin, which are more widespread nowadays, and protect oneself from the hellfire. Otherwise, God may wipe out the humans one more time, barring the God-fearing, as the life of the humans is an enactment of the parts and processes of the universe. The chapter number 10 describes about the family line of Noah, and the verse number 5 states that, I quote, "From these, the coastlands of the nations were separated into lands, everyone according to its language, according to their families, by their nations," unquote. This indicates that this is the beginning of the formation of new clusters within this vast proto-galaxy, which is reaffirmed by the verse number 32, which states that, I quote, "These are the families of the sons of Noah according to their genealogy by their nations, and from these the nations spread over the earth after the flood," unquote. This also confirms that most of the matter and galaxies that exist today are the new matter and galaxies in the universe. Please subscribe to the channel if you want to know more about the universe and religion, as I am going to discuss about the origin of Milky Way and solar system in future, inshallah. Now, let us understand few things about the age of the universe. According to the present scientific knowledge, the age of the universe is about 13.8 billion years. If we critically analyze and observe the universe, the present theories fail to provide satisfactory answer to some of the questions. Even in my mind, many questions have cropped up, and let me address few of them here. Some of the major questions are as follows. What is dark matter? What is dark age of the universe and what happened there? If the age of the universe is 13.8 billion years and the first star formation happened after approximately 300 million years after the Big Bang, how can a quasar be formed within a short span of another 300 to 400 million years, where the oldest reported quasar is emitting light, which has formed just 669 million years after the Big Bang? Can a star complete its life cycle within that small time of 700 million years? If not, then what is the real age of the universe? By the grace of the Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I found the answer in the scriptures, and let me share with you. The first verse of the first chapter of the book of Genesis says that in the beginning God created the heaven and the earth. In chapter 2, verse number 4 to 7 mentions about the earth. And verse number 7 says that Lord God formed the man from the soil of the ground. All these verses confirms that the dry ground has been formed from the plasma containing the fundamental particles or God particles as soil, which contributed for the formation of the proton. Later, all the stars which are symbolically addressed as humankind are thriving over this ground. Later in the chapter number 8, verse number 4, it is said that the Ark of Noah landed on one of the mountains of Ararat after flood. Then, where is the land now? As I mentioned earlier, God has destroyed everything, including the humankind, except Noah and his companions through flood. If we critically analyze the chapters 6, 7 and 8, we can understand that God has destroyed everything, including the ground, as it is inundated by the flood. In the chapter number 8, verse number 1, it is mentioned that God caused a wind to blow over the earth and the water receded. This indicates that there was a wind of deionizing particles which reduced the temperature and matter. Then, what is that water that flooded the ground? Where did it come from? As I have already mentioned earlier, the water could be real water or it could be plasma of gases, as plasma is referred as water in chapter 1, or a combination of all. If it is plasma, then intense heat should exist in the universe. If we analyze the chapter 6 carefully, we can understand that the unordered pairing of the cations and anions might have generated high heat in the universe. In addition to this, the process of formation of elements might have formed heavy radioactive elements which on decaying might have generated the intense heat in the universe. This heat might have metamorphosed the early formed matter which is called the ground. I request the scientists to join hands with me to decipher the elemental formation that is mentioned as descendants of Adam. In chapter 6, verse number 3, it is mentioned that, I quote, "So the Lord said, my spirit will not remain in humankind indefinitely, since they are mortal. They will remain for 120 more years," unquote. Later, during the universal flood, the Spirit of God left this early humankind and the ground where the Spirit of God is nothing but the light. Therefore, the ground and the earlier matter is metamorphosed and lost its light and became the dark matter. This is the reason why the Archean rocks are also metamorphosed on the earth, which is comparable to the ground of the universe on the earth. For more details about the Earth history, you can watch two of my previous videos titled "The Prophets Revealed" and "The Ramayana and Mahabharata are real. They are the history of India." It is stated in chapter 6, verse number 1 to 4 that during the unordering pairing of the cations and anion, Nephilim were on the earth. Then who or what are Nephilim? The latter part of the verse number 4 says that they were the mighty heroes of the old, the famous men. In my opinion, the Nephilim are Quasars, as it is stated that they are the mighty heroes of the old, the famous men. For further confirmation, we have to refer the other scriptures as well. If they are really quasars, then the age of the universe should be more than 13.8 billion years, as they were present before the flood of Noah. Then, when did this flood of Noah occur in the universe? Let me show you few statistics. Chapter number 5, 10 and 11 explains the genealogy of Adam to Abraham, which is shown here in this table. According to chapter 7, verse number 6, the flood occurred when Noah was 600 years old. If we follow the genealogy from Noah to Jacob, beginning with the universal flood, it totals to 900 years, where Jacob represents the sun. Please watch my previous video 12 planets in the solar system for more details. According to Quran, chapter 70, verse number 4, one cosmic day equal to 50,000 earth years. If we convert the 900 cosmic years to the earth years, we will get a value of 16.425 billion years, which is the age of the present universe. According to the scientific study, the age of the Milky Way galaxy is 13.61 billion years. If we consider the genealogy of Noah up to Abraham, beginning from the flood of Noah, we get a total of 740 cosmic years, which converts to 13.505 billion years, which corroborates with the scientific data precisely. Then, the period between Adam and Noah up to the universal flood is the Dark Ages, which amounts to a staggering 1656 cosmic years. If we convert this to the Earth years, we get the value of 30.2 billion years. If we add these two values, we get the age of the universe, which is equal to 46.647 billion years. Now, if we add 4.6 billion years, that is the age of the Earth, to this value, we get a value of 51.247 billion years. This is the actual age of the universe. Yes, you heard it right. The age of the universe is 51.247 billion years. Yes, the universe what we see today is the new metamorphosed universe. This is the reason why Manu addresses his disciples as twice born, where Manu is the Indian counterpart of Noah. The Manusmriti contains the laws laid down by the god to the elements. The Verna system is the representation of the periodic table, where the four caste represents the four rows of the periodic table. The Brahmana represents the hydrogen and helium. Second row elements represent the Kshatriyas. Third row represents the Vaishyas, and the remaining rows represent the Shudras. If we eliminate the discrepancies which are present in this book, it could be a reference for the study of natural laws for the elemental evolution followed by the stars during the beginning of the metamorphosed universe. This is the reason why I am telling the religion is not different than science and science is not different than religion. They go hand in hand and they are intertwined. All the scriptures of the world talk about the creation. This is the reason why a Muslim is asked to believe in all the scriptures revealed prior to the Quran as well. Peace be upon on all of these prophets and all praises to Allah alone. If anyone wants to contribute for the development of science and religious knowledge, I welcome you all and request you to join hands with me to spread the true knowledge of all the scriptures of the word with an authentic proof and in a right spirit. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.